So feel free to click on the right side to use the skip ahead feature to jump to a specific section or the examples that you'd like to learn. We're going to be using Python 2.7.4 in this exercise. You can download it from python.org/getit. This will build heavily on the past lessons, so feel free to go back and watch those again if anything is unclear. So let's go ahead and get started and open up idle. So let's say we had a script that required user input, but we only wanted the user to input integer values. What would happen is if the user input strings or words, the code could break. So how do we handle that is with exception handling. And this is a way of handling any kind of code that could possibly break your script or files. Alright, so the keywords that we're going to learn about are try and except. And try is basically try to do something. And except is like, alright, if something is illegal, do this instead. And so let's try an example of something that would break our code. So let's type in x equals 5 plus quotation marks, ham, in quotation marks, enter. And now you'll see this traceback error call. It says type error, you can't add strings and ints together, which makes perfect sense. So we're going to try our new exception handling. And so type in try, enter, and then type in x equals 5 plus ham again, type in enter, delete, press backspace to jump back tab space, and type in except, enter, print, darn it, because we knew it wouldn't work. Enter, and now it prints it without any error being popped up or interrupting our code. So this is extremely useful if you're writing scripts and you want to catch anything that could possibly break your code and spit out any message for the user or for debugging. So another keyword that can be used with the try and except is the keyword pass. And pass is basically a way of not having anything happen in here. You don't have to print space or print anything. It's just a way of saying, hey, just ignore this. So we're going to type in try x equals 5 plus ham again, because 5 and ham don't add up, backspace, except pass, enter. And now look at what happens. It's just using it to pass on, to say, hey, just move on past this, whatever. So pass is a way of saying, hey, ignore whatever came through and just move on. Okay. So another important keyword to know about is the raise keyword, which can be used to force a specific error or exception to be called. So we're going to type in a quick example of it. Just typing raise, space, type error, and then open parentheses, and just type ha 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 ha, close parentheses, in quotes, enter. And what happens is we're returned an actual error, and it says traceback, blah blah blah, raise type error, and then here is the actual error, and it's the type error, and the text is ha 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 ha, that we actually pressed in. Cool. Note that there are many other exceptions or errors that can be raised. There's the zero division error, the name error, the type error, and many, many more. So for more information, please look up Python documentation on Python's website. Alright, so the last exception keyword we're going to go over is called finally. And finally always happens at the end of the steps before the real errors are returned. So let's go ahead and punch in try, enter, x equals 5 plus ham, enter, backspace, except, and then type in zero division error. And what this zero division error is we're declaring, hey, if this specific type of error comes out of the try area, then this is how we're going to be handling it. So this is a way of declaring specifically what type of error you're looking for. Otherwise, if you leave it blank, it'll just catch all the errors. Type in enter, print will not see this, in quote, and then we're going to backspace and type in finally, colon, enter, print, space, the final word, end quote, enter, enter. And so we see the final word is printed first, and then the real error comes afterwards. Great. And so finally is used for doing any last in stuff. If you needed to debugging stuff, would go great right here in finally. And then the actual error would be returned right here. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Great job in keeping up today. Definitely take a few minutes to investigate these final examples, as they really have thought-provoking concepts within them. They go over a lot of the topics that we went over. Also, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel. That way you never miss another episode as I crank them out. And thank you so much for your support, and keep the dream alive. Today I'll be using Python 2.7.4, and you can download it from python.org/getit. So without any further ado, let's open up idle. So today's focus is going to be functions in Python, and this will build heavily on the past lessons, so feel free to go back and watch them again if anything is unclear by clicking on the right side. Alright, so functions, what are they? Functions are a way to combine many actions into a single process, and so it's ideal for situations where you're going to be using it over and over and over again. So the last video, I referred to loops as a way of repeating a certain action over and over, like washing dishes. Functions would be a collection of actions, such as cleaning a kitchen. And that includes doing dishes, sweeping, mopping, denoming under the sink, whatever it may be. And that's a Harry Potter reference for any of you who got it. So how do functions work? Alright, let's type this in, and I'll walk you through it step by step. So first we're going to type in def. And def is a way of saying, hey, I'm going to be declaring a function. And you can name the function whatever you like. So we're going to name it does nothing. So following that, you're going to punch in a set of parentheses. And ordinarily, you're going to put in arguments in here, but for right now, we're just going to stick with it being empty. Finally, end it with a colon. And press enter. And now, notice that idle automatically indents, anticipating you to put some stuff into the function. And here we can put in whatever we want to execute over and over again. So for right now, just type in pass. And if you remember from earlier, pass is more of a placeholder. It doesn't actually do anything, it just tells the computer to move on. Okay, and press enter, enter again, and now the computer's accepted it. Alright, so to test this out, just type in does nothing, open close parentheses, enter. And it accepted it. Great, so we've actually created our very first function. Excellent. Now the power of functions really comes from when you try to get something back from a function. This is where return comes in. Return is a way to return something back from a function. It's a form of output. Arguments are used for input into functions, and return is used for output. So let's try another example. We're going to type def space lowercase make uppercase 1 open close parentheses colon enter return 1 enter enter. Alright, so it's accepted it. Now we're going to type x equals make 1, the function that we just created. Enter, and now type print x enter, and now it's 1. Perfect. So now we've got a way to return or output from a function. Excellent. So how do we push stuff into a function? That is with arguments. Arguments are a way of passing information into a function within the parentheses. It's a form of input. And so arguments are a way of inputting into a function the same way you put gas into a car. And the output from the function is the same as the car driving around until it hits 88 miles per hour and travels through time. And so there's two types of arguments. There's regular arguments and keyword arguments. Regular arguments are any basic input that you want to pass into the class. They could be class instances, numbers, strings, variables, lists, dictionaries, etc. Keyword arguments, however, are arguments that have an equal sign that's declaring a variable within the arguments that's going to be used later. It's a way of setting a default so that the user doesn't necessarily have to put it in. However, if the user chooses to put in an argument into that spot, then it will be overridden. All right, so let's try a third example in which we start to use arguments. We're going to type in def space add capital T for 10, and then my int in the parentheses colon enter, my int plus equals 10 enter, and then we're going to return my int enter enter. Now we're going to go ahead and declare a variable that we're going to use to pass into the arguments. We're going to type in x equals 12 enter. And now to see what arguments and functions that we actually have created, we can use a special function by typing in dir open close parentheses enter. And here we'll see all the functions and variables that are stored within our file right now. This is an extremely useful command that we'll be using more later, but it's a way to quickly see exactly what we've created. And you can see the make1 function that we created earlier, the variable x we have created, and then the function add 10 in here. So it's a way of double checking that we have our functions and variables stored in memory. All right, so next we're going to type in y equals add 10 open parentheses x close parentheses enter. And finally, we're going to type in print x comma y enter. And now notice that the value for x is 12, however the value of y is 22. Why is this? We passed x into the function arguments. Why didn't the value hold as plus 10 or 22 like y did? You'd think that they would both be the same value. And this brings me to my next big point, local versus global variables. So up here in our def add 10 function that we created, notice that we put in the myInt is a way of passing in a given variable. And then we added 10 and then returned it. What happens is the function is actually creating a copy of whatever is passed in. It's not actually adjusting the one we passed in, only making a copy. I need to emphasize this. It's just a copy that will be deleted at the end of the function. Took me a while to wrap my head around it, so I don't expect you to get this the first time around. If you do, you're a genius. So you may be asking yourself, well, what if I wanted to adjust variables within a function? How would I do that? What you'd use are globals. I'm not going to get into that now, but I will discuss it in a later tutorial. So next we're going to discuss comments and documenting, and these are the most important non-essential parts of programming. In other words, your code will work fine without it, but it will make your life hell if it's not there. So a way to think of this is if you're given code, you can think of it as being given a cell phone, and the comments are like the manual of the phone. And without the comments or documentation, you may not be able to figure out how this new code or new phone works. So they're important to have. So the way that this ties back into functions is that you've got the document string, which you can think of as the cover of the manual. And the comments you create within the code are like pages within the manual. Okay, so the document string, what is it? Alright, so the document string is a way of creating a short description for your function that can be accessed from anywhere. It comes immediately after your definition of the function, but before any of the actual code. And the way you contain it is with triple quotes on either side of the text. Comments, on the other hand, are notes that are completely ignored by the computer when it's doing its computing. It's a way to leave a message for other programmers or for yourself down the road. It is also a way to comment out broken code. I need to emphasize this. Whenever your code breaks, commenting it out is a great way of debugging. The way of creating a comment is you simply start with a pound sign or a sharp sign at the beginning of the statement, and then you just, from then on, it's ignored. So you can attach this at the end of a line, right before a line, or after a line, whatever you choose. Alright, so let's go ahead and see an example of both of these in action. We're going to type in def myfunc open close parentheses colon enter, and then type 3 single quotes, 1 2 3 enter, tab, and then we're going to type in whatever we want. And I'm going to type in I documented something, period, enter, and then I'm going to type 3 more single quotes, enter, and I'm going to type a pound sign now, and type only seen in code view, comma, comp ignores. Enter. Finally, we're going to end this function with pass, P-A-S-S, enter, enter. And now Python's accepted it. So now we're going to type in a special command that will allow us to see the document string. So type in print myfunc dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore enter. And now we can access the document for that specific function we created. And it says, I documented something. Cool. Alright, that's it for this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Great job keeping up today. Definitely take a few minutes to investigate these final examples, as they really have thought-provoking concepts within them. They may have some stuff that I did not cover, so I encourage you to look them up at your leisure. Please leave me a comment below if this helped you in any way. Also, do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. It would really mean a lot to me. And thank you so much for your support, and keep the dream alive!